Every night is the Rangers Journal night.
Yes, hello everyone. You are live. You are watching us live on the Rangers Journal. This is the Ibrox channel. The Rangers Journal is the new home of the Ibrox channel podcast. And we've got a great podcast lined up for you this evening. So we've got a manager performance review. Philippe Clement has been here at Rangers for just over a year now. And we're going to delve into a little bit of a report card for him tonight. So we'll have lots of opinion on that. And I've got a fantastic team of guests. So I'll introduce first Ben. Ben, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, Andrew. How you doing, pal? All right?
Do you know, I'm not too bad. Rangers haven't ruined my week yet. So
it's very early in the week for that.
I know, right? Oh, we get so used to it, though. I'm dead inside, really. But yeah, no, good to have you on, Ben. Good to have you on, mate.
Thanks,
we've also got Ryan with us this evening. Ryan, how you doing?
Good, Andrew. First time on with Steph and Ben as well. Ben's a close friend for years, so this will be good. But first time on with them too, so that'll be good. Good we change the scenery, get rid of that mix now.
Oh, you love him, really. You love him, really.
Yeah, I always see that. I always watching.
And you're just back from fives yourself, Ryan. You literally pegged it back home after winning as well. When you pegged it back home to be here with everyone, so this is fantastic. So good man, Ryan, good man. And we're also here tonight with another fantastic guest, Steph. Steph, how are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Absolutely buzzing for my first pod. So pleasure to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, Steph, and I hope you're looking forward to this one, delving into Philippe Clement. But before we get started, I'd just like to say that this show is brought to you by Premier VPN, which is simple, safe, and reliable VPN. So Premier VPN goes above and beyond to protect your online privacy and security. So stay safe and private while online. So just head into your search engine and pop in Premier VPN, find the website, and do get signed up. So right, let's get into it. So of course it has been a year since Philippe Clement was appointed Rangers manager, our 19th manager in our history. And yeah, we're going to delve into kind of how he's fared as Rangers manager. So has he been as bad or as good in some aspects as we kind of all think? It's always interesting when you look at stats, because stats don't always necessarily tell the whole story. But I'm just going to go around everyone with just a little bit of a basic insight on how you're feeling about Philippe Clement in his first year. So Ben, how are you feeling about Philippe Clement currently? It's been a year that he's been at the club. He has won us a trophy. So how are you? What camp are you in at the minute with Philippe Clement?
I think it's the old cliche, a game kind of too harsh with Clement. He came in, we get a bounce, good result against Betis, won a League Cup, and we kind of we get ourselves into a race last season with Celtic, kind of towards the end of March, and then I think probably since that kind of span of Ross County, Celtic, Dundee, where he pretty much lost it. I think it's just went downhill, obviously losing this cup final as well. And it's just not really picked up since. So I think it's a real kind of started well, and it's very much kind of been on a slide ever since.
It certainly has. It certainly has. Ryan, what are your kind of feelings on Philippe Clement in his kind of first year? Just kind of your basic thoughts.
Kind of on the fence, obviously, as Ben says, he's won a League Cup and he did get a good bounce coming in, so he has showed signs that we can do it. He can motivate the players. It's a new group, so he's don't get time at Rangers Day, so it's a new group of players. He's trying to bed them in, but I think some of his interviews after games is kind of what's losing the patience with supporting some of his interviews. Some of the things he's saying is crazy. But if my biggest concern is you can't beat Celtic as a Rangers manager, you're in trouble. So I think like the next Old Firm is, if he makes it to the next Old Firm, he's got to win it. He can't keep this run up by Celtic having a number like that if he's going to survive as a Rangers manager.
Yeah, that's the bread and butter, isn't it? You've got to be able to beat your rivals, especially your rivals for the title. So yeah, no, good to hear your thoughts, Ryan. So Steph, where are you at the minute with Philippe Clement? It's been one whole year since he's been appointed. We have won a trophy. Where are you feeling at the minute? Do you think it's been a fairly positive year? Have we progressed under Clement so far?
I could categorically say no. We have not progressed, we've regressed. And yeah, I have just echo everything that the other two guys have said. You know, you kind of get your hopes up last season coming in and, you know, virtually smashing the league up to that point where we just fell off it in the League Cup, and you were just thinking, you know what, the tide is turning. And then unfortunately it's back to the same old. So yeah, not a happy Barrett.
Not a happy Barrett, indeed, yeah. And it's interesting that you say same old, because it is something we're seeing in recent years, aren't we? We kind of get a bit of a new manager bounce when a manager comes in, and then we kind of stagnate a lot, don't we? So, no, it was good to get your kind of initial thoughts, and everyone in the comments, lots of comments coming through, so do get your comments in, and if there's some good questions, we'll try and get them answered as well. So, I was taking a wee delve into Clermont today because I was having a look at some of the stats. And we'll look at last season first, of course, when Philippe Clermont came in. So currently, if we look at, I'm looking at the wrong stats here, that would help if I looked at the right ones. But yeah, so last season, Philippe Clermont's win rate, which I've completely just deleted off my page, so I'm just going to get it back in true live podcasting fashion. There we go. So last season's stats. So points per game. In the Scottish Premiership, I think Philippe Clermont was averaging around 2.33. In the Europa League, I think it was 1.5 for points. Scottish Cup, 2.40. Obviously, it's not really a points-based system, but it's for wins, basically. And, of course, the League Cup, we kind of averaged 3 points a game, which is basically every game at 1. Interestingly, delving through his kind of win rates, and I think overall across the two seasons, both included, he's got a win percentage of around about 61.1%, which for a Rangers manager is obviously quite a bit below. You look at the previous Rangers managers' records. Michael Beale, 72.1% win rate. I don't think a lot of people would have kind of remembered that. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, 61.8% win rate. Steven Gerrard, surprisingly, 64.6% win rate. And then we start getting into the kind of previous dark days. Pedro Caixinha, 53.8% win rate, which was, that was a barrel of laughs at that time. So, Ben, does that surprise you at the minute, the stats? There are some, I think, reports. Some of the stats might be slightly outdated. So it's between 61 and 62% at the minute as a win rate across the two seasons. Do you think that that's quite... Does it feel like that at the minute?
I think stats only tell half a story. I think our big problem is we can't win games away from home. I think at home we're very, very strong. I think away from home we're not very good, which Gio kind of became. Kind of has the style, this kind of slow build European style doesn't seem to suit. Kind of suits going to other teams, letting us go to other teams' venues, and they're happy just to sit in and hit us on the break and take a chance. And we've seen it countless times over the last kind of 4 or 5 years. So I would say for me, stats probably only tell half a story, because I think we are good at home. I think if we could kind of change something away from home, kind of maybe change the style, change the formation, change the personnel away from home, and we got a couple more results. So I think people wouldn't be too bothered about stats, to be honest.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think a large chunk of the kind of wins kind of came through from last season, didn't they? When he kind of went on that good, decent run, and really stagnated, as Steph said earlier, since then. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Good question there from Ross. Good evening, folks. Is Clermont suffering from the same as his predecessors in that he's only getting sick because he can't beat Celtic? So I'm going to come to you, Ryan, with this one. Do you think that's accurate? Is it because he can't beat Celtic? Is it kind of now filtering through and cracks are appearing due to that, do you think?
I don't think it's just Celtic. I just don't think we can win big games. I think anytime we need to win a game to claw back points, we don't do it. We're playing Aberdeen up at Pittodrie. Tough place to go, but we need to beat Aberdeen if we're going to finish second. Do you know what I mean? We need to beat Celtic if we want to fight for titles. The only big game he's won is probably the League Cup final, and that was there at the start of his tenure. other than that, when he claws back the league, the pressure's kind of off him when you're clawing back the league because I'm not really expected to do anything. But I don't think it's just. Don't think it's just him. But you're talking about it's a loser mentality through the whole team. I think, or a bad mental strength through the whole team. And but they said it was that group of players. That group of players are now gone. It's in a fresh group of players, and it seems to be the same problem. I don't know if it's leadership with the captain or whatever. I like Tavernier, so I don't want to bash him too much because he's got Rangers through games himself at times in the past. But I don't think it's just Celtic, Andrew. I think it's just he's not really won a big game of note. Like you're like, well, we needed to win that. We needed those 3 points to claw back anything, and that's I think the problem is we don't win the big games. To be honest, we're scraping by the other games as well. We're winning 1-0s and poor performances as well. I think that's it's unsettling the fans that when we do win, it's still like people are wanting to go home after 70 minutes, and do you know what I mean? The stadium's half empty before the game's finished, and it says it all.
Yeah, the football isn't pretty at the minute, isn't it? Now, speaking of the football, obviously there's been a lot of chat about formations, and especially with the specific formation that Clermont plays, that kind of 4-2-3-1. Steph, do you think that formation should change in the league? Do you think that Clermont should look at a different formation that might work a little bit better with the squad? Or do you think there's more external factors at play, like things that have been happening at the club? What do you think is kind of the biggest problem at the minute that Clermont's facing?
It's to be honest, it's a combination of most things, isn't it? But if we can look at the things that Clermont can control, which is the tactics of the formation, the 4-2-3-1, it made us so defensive in a league where we shouldn't be like that. I noticed this, the subtle tweaks just in the last couple of weeks. It's more like a kind of 4-1-4-1. He's got Raskin sitting a wee bit deeper and covering, and he's pushing Barron up, which you can see the link-up play was there. But the confusing thing for me is when you know you need to have an overload in the midfield, he pushes his wingers further out, and it leaves all these gaps, and it leaves our 6 or an 8 really, really exposed. And he just doesn't do any in-game changes, which really gets on my wick. Because you're thinking when a game's crying out, you're looking at it as a fan, and you can see all these pockets of spaces. You can see a 2v1 or something like that, and he's just sitting there scratching his head, going, "Oh well, I'll throw on Kieran Dowell, he'll solve our problems." Do you know what I mean? So he's lack of tactical knowledge and willingness to change the formation is bamboozling, and will cost him his job, in my opinion. Definitely will.
Yeah, no, I think one of the big frustrations for me, you make some very good points here, Steph, especially when it comes to substitutions. They're very like-for-like substitutes, or maybe not necessarily better in any way, shape or form. Substitutes can't seem to be made in that kind of proactive manner where you're looking to change a game up. Now, obviously, we have seen some little differences in some of the latter games. We have started to see James Tavernier be rested or be taken off or not even start in a game, which is quite bold, especially with the captain, and no other managers have really done that. So, Ben, do you think that Clermont is starting to realise that change is needed with making some of these substitutes, or is he just trying to throw tomatoes at the wall and hoping one sticks?
No, I think being at the Motherwell semi-final, I think he knew he had to do something drastic, because it pretty much was you're staring down the barrel of your job. It was very, very toxic in the stands. Like, even as soon as Motherwell scored, like, that build up to half-time was probably the worst I've heard. Probably worse than the Kishinya Ibrox when Kilmarnock, we missed a penalty and Kilmarnock apart and scored. It was well worse. So I think it was drastic and it needed to be done because both of them weren't playing well. So they had to come off. And Tavernier didn't start in the European game. I thought Stelling was okay. I didn't think he was as good as people were making out. He was okay defensively, but I thought he was probably just as bad or worse than Tav at getting the ball away, to be honest. But obviously bringing Tav back in for the league game, is that more kind of, he doesn't trust Stelling to play 2 games in a row? Because, I mean, that's probably true because his injury record's quite poor. And as for Dessers, he's the only striker been available. I think if we'd somebody that was available alongside him when you could take him out when it's not going well, he'd maybe be looked on a wee bit more fondly. But then at each their own, you've still got to play well and probably take more chances than he takes.
Yeah, no, very good point. Ryan, so I'm going to go to you, mate. Do you think that injuries have hampered what Clermont's been trying to do? Because obviously, Rangers over the past 3 to 4 seasons have had, I know all clubs do have injuries, it does happen. It's modern football. Footballers play a lot of games. But we do seem to, in my opinion anyway, have a lot of injuries. I think we ended last season with so many players out of position and we were really just struggling to get towards the end of the season. Do you think injuries have been the biggest problem for Clermont? What do you reckon?
I don't think it helps. It definitely doesn't help. I think Cortez and stuff. I've been on here quite a couple of times and said kind of the two wingers that we've got, probably our two best players, but I don't like having no pace in the wing or having no kind of tricky winger. I always like to have at least one a bit of balance with a tricky winger on the side. I think Cortez would have brought that, but his injury record's terrible. But it seemed Matondo injury record terrible. So you're struggling for wingers, I think, and we're a bit one-dimensional at the moment. And I think does Matondo or Cortez answer? We don't know. We don't see them regularly enough to know if they could do it on a regular basis for Rangers. So I think that's a aye. And then so I've said you've got Cortez, you've got Matondo, you've got Danilo. So you've got, as Ben says, Dessers has had to play through some really torrid times where you could have probably gave him a breather when he's missing those chances, or he's playing 90 minutes after 90 minutes. You're playing 3 games a week, so he's had to kind of rely on the same 11 most of the time. But I think he's, as Steph says as well, his stubbornness to change his tactics and stuff is a big part of it as well. Stubbornness to throw. But I think even like Aberdeen when we play now, I think the manager was happy to use the subs. He wasn't bothered. He's throwing the subs on. He's rotating the squad. He's keeping everybody fresh. And I think it's just it even brings a freshness, especially when it's the same 11 guys on the park. So I agree with Ben says about Dessers and Steph as well about the formation. So the injuries doesn't help, but the stubbornness of playing the same kind of formation, same players, like even Lawrence was scoring goals, but he still just is reluctant to bring Lawrence out of the team, maybe put somebody with a bit of legs, and even like Hadji as well. Like to see Hadji come in and get a wee crack. But I think it's I think that the injury things have been a problem for every Rangers manager for as long as we can remember, Roof and stuff like that as well. So it's just you've got to fail a medical to sign for us rather than pass on.
Yeah, no, obviously you mentioned there that injuries have been a problem for several Rangers managers now. We seem to be going down the kind of same route in some respects. Steph, do you think that the situation at Rangers at the minute, we're dropping points, we're sitting third, we are 9 points behind even second place at the minute. Do you think that this is a Clermont problem, or is there something more deep-rooted at Rangers currently?
I think it's a Clermont problem because we're kind of talking about that loser mentality that's been there for quite some time. Well, the old guard bar one really is gone, so you can't really blame it on people being there too long or not caring about the club or not having the passion or anything like that anymore. He's brought in a group of, as he calls, young players, and then just keeps calling them young, keeps calling them new. I mean, if you're in your job 6 months to a year and somebody's still saying, "Oh, you're still young, you're still learning," you're going to just leave me alone. I think he treats them like babies. Therefore, they're going to keep acting like babies. They're going to keep thinking, "Oh, I'm not doing very well. I didn't make that pass," and he just needs to get them to grow up really quick. I think it's a Clermont problem for me. And I was, when he first came in, I wanted them to succeed. I wanted to have a manager with us for like 5-6 seasons, something like that, win us loads of trophies, bring us in good young players to help them progress and things like that. But they're getting thrown under the bus because he won't change his formation. He won't sub people. Like, the young players are looking at these people playing absolute rubbish week in, week out, sitting on the bench going, well, there's nothing really I can do. So obviously their head wanders, their mind wanders, the mentality drops, the motivation drops. It's a management problem. And it's not just him, he's got a team as well. But buck stops with the manager. They set the culture and the behaviours. Every business, not just a football club. Every business.
The buck does certainly stop with the manager. Now, looking at Philippe Clement last year, now I wrote an article on the Ibrox Channel website, which is the ibroxchannel.com, and I was kind of delving into Philippe Clement and, having a look at him, what he'd been doing. And there wasn't really any major great concerns. Looking at the kind of candidates we were looking at the time, obviously Kevin Muscat's name his hat was in the ring. He was interviewed. Obviously, allegedly, Frank Lampard was interviewed. Obviously, it was suggested by, I think, maybe Graham Souness, I think, was looking at Lampard as a good candidate. But his CV does seem to stack up. Now, if you are, obviously, hindsight's a great thing, Ben, but looking at him out in Belgium, he won the league with one team. Then the next season went to the rivals, won the league with them. He was very rigid in the way that he would play football there. His formation always kind of pretty much stayed the same by the looks of it. He did win quite a few trophies. He did win 2 of the Belgian Super Cups. He did win the Belgian Cup. He's won 4 Belgian champions. And of course, since he's been at Ibrox, he's already managed to get the League Cup. Were the board right to appoint Clement at that time? They seemed to take their time. He seemed to be a proven winner. Obviously, there was a little bit of a hiccup at Monaco. Do you think he was the right man for the job at the time?
I think he was the outstanding candidate at the time for me. And I think MD that says otherwise is probably kidding themselves on. I think at the time, if you're saying you're going to bring in a guy that's maybe been in a similar league, probably better teams, probably at the top, there's probably more than 2 good teams in Belgium, which you could probably see. But to say he's won 4 league titles and be 2 different clubs, people are going, well, aye, that's the kind of thing we were crying out for. We were crying out for somebody that had won things before. So I think at the time he was the outstanding candidate. And I probably would say the right decision was made at the time.
Yeah, do you know what, Ben? I think that as well, because I was quite excited when I was looking into him and I wrote that piece. I thought, wow, we potentially got a great manager on our hands here. At the time as well, allegedly, he did turn down quite a lucrative move out to Al Shabaab. The Saudi side was looking to sign him, and I think it was I can't remember the exact figure, but it was a lot of money for a 2.5-year deal to become their manager. So a couple of years out in Saudi, and you're a multi-millionaire. So it did appear that Clement was vested in what we have, what the plan was to do at Rangers, obviously with the board at the time. Obviously, the board's gone through different incarnations. Ryan, do you think that, obviously Bennett, John Bennett, before he left his position, he did say that Clement was fully on board with their vision and they were on board with his, and they are building for the future. Do you think that that is still the plan currently? Do you think the board still believe in Philippe Clement? Now, I know that there are still some people to be named in place on the board, and CEO, director of football. Obviously there have been some slight changes this week and allegedly some to come over the next few weeks, but do you think that vision is still the same? Do you think that they still believe in Clement, and do you think he'll be here still next season?
I think that was the vision. The problem is they gave Clement assurances that now aren't there. So that's the kind of, you've got to remember, Clement probably told a lot of rubbish that he was going to get this and that to do, and he's kind of been dealt with a bad hand at Rangers as well. I've got to say that for him. They gave him that extra year deal. I think it was a year extension. So I think that was an indication that the board are in it for the long haul with him, instead of rinse and repeat managers, which I would like to see Rangers do anyway. The league's out of sight. They're not going to win the league. I would stick with him. See what he can do. Come good. He's got a decent pedigree elsewhere. I think the big problem is we can't really. I don't think we can afford to get rid of him either. It's probably cost a lot to get rid of. But we would maybe be lucky if the Belgian FA came in and paid for him. That would probably be the most ideal thing. But I think the board are going to stick with him. But the only thing is, once the fans turn, there's really no going back for a Rangers manager. So And I think he was 1 or 2 results there away from that happening. So I don't know if he'll be a Rangers manager next season. I doubt it actually, but I think they'll try and see the season out with him at least. But if he can, as I said earlier, if he keeps losing these big games, especially against Celtic, I don't think he's going to last much longer.
Yeah, no, it's there's always a pattern when it comes to football managers at any club, isn't there? Where when things start going, it's very difficult to get yourself out of that. Now, Steph, obviously, there's a lot of rumor flying around that the Belgian FA are potentially interested in Philippe Clement. Obviously, a lot of this can be paper chat, especially with what's going on at Rangers currently. Do you think that if the Belgian FA were to pay, whatever the amount would be to have the services of Philippe Clement, do you think that that would happen? Can you see that happening, really?
As much as I'm not, as I say, a happy bear just now, I do agree with Ryan. I think he will stay till the end of the season. However, in saying that, there's no wee lights, of hope or glimmer of hope that it's getting better. And I think if the Belgian FA came in, offered money for the sake of his own managerial reputation, then he probably should go, because he's still young enough to have another sort of 10, 15 years in management. And if Rangers, the size and scale of the club, and if he fails miserably, that can hinder his chance from getting jobs elsewhere. So I don't think he'll go. I think he really does seem invested in this project. And he seems like he feels like he's the man for the job. He's just got a hell of a job to try and turn us around to believe the same thing. But yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere, unfortunately.
No, I'm kind of in the same camp as you. I think that personally, the Belgian FA have got other candidates that they can look at where they wouldn't have to pay money to release from his contract. So I think that would be the thing. He was obviously held in high regard out there in Belgium because his record's been exemplary out there. But actually, Steph, I'll stay with you for just a second. What would you say has been a positive that Clement has done in his year at Rangers? Now, it can be anything that you think that has changed and for the better, if you can. Just to put you on the spot.
No, I do actually like that he's brought in some fresh, exciting talent. I mean, we looked at pre-season and we looked at Jeffy and everyone was like, oh God, he is like the worst player that Rangers have ever had. And now arguably he's our best, the most consistent player. And why he was dropped for Aberdeen, that's a different thing altogether. Don't get me started on that one. But I think bringing in some fresh young faces who do look hungry, just maybe not gelling, for whatever reason they're not gelling, but bringing the average age of the team down is a positive thing. You get that hunger and fight, and when you're that young, you should have no fear. So I like that part that he's done. I can't see he's building the assets for the future, as he's saying just now. I'm still not seeing that. Maybe after the January, maybe we'll see a bit of a difference in it and string some results together. But that's kind of the only thing that I've liked in having the mental fortitude to drop Tav, because the ego and the arrogance that I feel like Tavernier has, that must have been tough for Clement, because I can't imagine he'd have went down without swinging, to be honest. And because he's such a big character, presumably such a big character in the dressing room, he could easily have caused a bit of a divide, within the team. But I like the fact that he's took that risk, and for those games that it did work. So I quite like that, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But you can never know.
Yeah, no, definitely. Kind of staying with the squad, Ben. Do you think that we have improved in the transfers that we brought in now? Not every player would be a Clement player necessarily. Obviously, Niels Coppen's got a lot of contacts, and I think that with the player trading model, we look for a specific type of player for the future. Now, not all the players that we've brought in might necessarily be at their full potential yet. But do you think that the player trading model will be kick-started with Clermont and Coppin?
Maybe not with them directly, but I think with those players that they brought in, I think, yeah, I think, I know they weren't signed by them, but I mean, Raskin's kind of reappeared out of nowhere in the last 6 weeks and probably looks like your best player again. Was kind of touted he could be a good player, and they did have a couple of injuries and kind of was in and out of the team and stuff. But I think the squad as a whole generally has probably regressed. It needed a rebuild, it needed a change, but I think in terms of proper quality players, we have regressed. But then at the same time, you could probably point to Clermont and go, well, you maybe not made MD better. Whereas 6 months ago, or for January, at the end of last season, Nicholas Kuhn was wrote off by Celtic. Fans weren't having him. 6 months, didn't really do much, barely played at Ibrox, had a bit of a nightmare. And now, a wee summer, good coach who's proven he can get the best out of players, and he looks as if he's going to be another £20 million player. So I think it can go both ways. I can see, could our manager and our coach get more out of those players like Jeffy, like Diamande, Raskin, Barron? I would probably say yes. But
Yeah,
I think player trading could start now. I think with the kind of age we've been kind of shopping in, you just need players to stay fit and find a bit of form to attract interest. I think that's the only bit it's missing now.
Yeah. No, definitely. Now, staying with the squad, Ryan, an important thing, especially when a manager comes in, especially when you are starting to drop the captain, that can create a lot of like fractures in the dressing room. Do you think, Ryan, that the dressing room? Do you think Clermont has got them players on his side currently, or do you think that there are signs that there might not be?
I think this Motherwell game kind of changed my mind. I think if that group of players were rid of him, I think they'd have lost that game. So there is a big. I think Tavernier's got a lot of power in the changing room. He's been there 10 years, so I'd imagine he would. I think his body language after the game against Motherwell was terrible, to be honest. So he did look unhappy. He wasn't scared to do it with Cantwell either. And I could imagine Cantwell was a big character in the changing room. British, do you know what I mean? I could imagine him full of carry in the changing room, quite friendly with everybody. So he wasn't scared to do it with Cantwell either. He should have maybe hooked Tav a bit early for Tav's own sake. But I think I was starting to think the players had down tools. And if I start to actually, I think he was kind of wanting to stick it as well before the Motherwell game. But we might be papering over cracks, and they just turned it up for a 45. But I think if they wanted to do them, they'd have lost that game. So I think the players are on side at the moment.
Yeah, no, yeah. When you look back at that Motherwell game, that was definitely a point where it was kind of make or break, wasn't it? Now, looking at you got to look at, when you review a manager, you got to look at kind of key results. So obviously this season, a lot of our away trips, we've pretty much failed at most places. So of course, Tynecastle in the first game of the season, we failed at Pittodrie, we failed at Rugby Park, and of course Parkhead, where we failed in the usual Rangers fashion these days. So Steph, what kind of big results would you say has Clermont got that another manager might not have? I know that's a bit of a kind of an open-ended question a little bit there. There can be any answer for that, but what were the biggest results for you over the past year for Philippe Clermont?
None of them have had really any significance apart from winning the League Cup when he first came in. The Betis game, you could argue, obviously, the way we finished that group campaign, but none of them have actually helped us leapfrog or led us anywhere. So I would kind of say none of them have really been big results because they haven't got us anywhere. And then you've got the old moral victory coming out, and he's not been capable of pulling out. And for a big result, right, if I was to categorise a big result, it's meaningful and it's a performance, right? You've dug it out from somewhere. He's not done that. and the guys have said before, scraping by every game by like 1 goal, apart from Ross County, the outlier. So I honestly can't think of any games that have been big results, like genuinely. And I never even thought about that until you mentioned it, Ryan. You know, maybe they are fighting for him now after that Motherwell game, because I've noticed the last few games, whoever's been doing the presser afterwards has came out and said, oh, you can tell we're all together. You can tell we're all behind the manager. They've all started kind of peppering these statements in after the games now. So I think that might be their way of trying to get the fans back on track. It could be a lot of rubbish. It might be true, I don't know. But I genuinely can't think of a big result game that's actually meant anything. Well, to me, but also to the league status or anything like that. I mean, Champions League was a letdown when it was there for the taking, as per usual. There was so much money riding on it, failed. There's European results have been good, but they're always good, so you can't even say that's a Cologne factor. They've been good for the last 3-4 seasons, so I'm having like doom and gloom tonight, but I just can't see there's just not really been a massive result for me that's actually meant anything. Everything's been the opposite way.
Yeah,
It's
no, no.
been a result we've needed and haven't got.
It's all about opinions, and I'm in that camp a little bit as well. It seems like Europe's always a bit of a free hit, isn't it? And we always seem to play much better because we seem to always be set up for that kind of European style football, no matter where we're playing or what we're playing, which of course doesn't work when you've got 10 men behind the ball on a cold night in Dingwall. Now, Ben, is there any results for you that have stood out for you over the past year? It's obviously been a long year. Philippe Clement did pick up some quite a lot of results in the league when he came in. Obviously went on a bit of a long run with that kind of new manager bounce before a lot of injuries kind of really hit. Any big results in the league for you last season, would you say, or anywhere else?
It obviously counted for nothing in the end, but the only one that springs to mind was Rugby Park kind of February time, and I think we were getting beat 1-0, and we kind of scored twice very, very quick. I remember Tom Lawn scored the second and put us 2-1 up. That's, at the time you were going, that's a big result, because that's something you've watched them do for a long time at Rugby Park. Even if they go behind, they 2 quick goals and it's just right round again. But obviously a month or 2 later it counted for very little, but at the time, in hindsight, that's probably the biggest league result we've had, I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you know what? I'd agree with that one, and I think that was it was a good one as well, because I think we were in our away kit as well, which never normally works well for us when we wear an away kit. But the result for me that kind of always stuck out in my mind was the Hearts game at Ibrox, where we were 1-0 down. It was a terrible game of football, and we scored 2 goals. One 90th minute, which I think was a penalty, and then the second one was a Danilo. I think it was a header. I think it was, which for me, you know, it was another win. And at that point, I think Clement had a 100% record. And you saw that and you thought, wow, this could be the real deal. I think we're in a title race here. Obviously, as usual, my hopes and dreams are absolutely crushed, as usual, being a Rangers fan. And I think we all experience that, don't we? I think we've all become a little bit numb to it. But Ryan, obviously, we've got Dundee United at the weekend. Do you think that this break has helped Clement be able to work with the squad a little bit more? Do you tend to find that we've obviously had a few international breaks? Do you, and obviously Clement was going on a lot about you'll see the real Rangers in October, November. Do you think we will see the real Rangers maybe on Saturday, hopefully for 90 minutes?
Nah, probably not. But this is the real Rangers. That is the real Rangers, is winning 1-0 and 2-0 and playing poorly. That's the real Rangers. It is for us anyway. This season, so he's going to need to something's got to change performance-wise. I don't think it'll start at the weekend either. I've not really got a lot of hopes. I don't want to sound so pessimistic. Is that pessimistic?
Yes, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
Nah. I know, but I just don't see. I think it'll be another 1-0, 2-1 or something to us, and I think it'll be a nervy, boring game. So I don't think it'll start at the weekend. I don't know if any players are back from injury or whatever. I'm not 100% sure of how many players will be back from injury. I don't know how many players went international duty either. I kind of switch off an international fortnight. Pulls the ribs off me, to be honest. I don't think it'll be very exciting at the weekend. I think it'll still be another 1-0 tour, I think, kind of job.
Yeah, that seems to be the formula at the minute, doesn't it? Now, Steph, obviously, we didn't exactly have the best start to the season in the respect that there was a lot of talk about players can only be brought in once players are sold. The kind of transfer kind of market kind of stagnated for us a little bit. We were, it really did feel like we were kind of offering out players and going, somebody please buy these players. Which never kind of works in your favor, does it? When teams know you're trying to sell players. So, do you think that the fact that we might not have been able to get the actual players we might have wanted, and the fact that we couldn't play at Ibrox for the first few games, do you think that made a big negative impact on the start of Clemont's season?
Yeah, I had to have done if he would have probably had a plan A, B, and C for players, or you'd like to think they would have that. And yeah, not getting Champions League money, not being able to offload people quick enough because nobody wanted to buy them, would have definitely hindered the plans that he had going forward. You'd have liked to think he'd had a master plan of attack for how he was going to play with certain players, and then he never got them. So maybe it was a kind of, go back to the drawing board sort of thing and make best with the second or third choices. So not ideal to do it that way, but at the end of the day, we've got the players we've got now. He's had them for months and months and months. He's had breaks in between to get them fresh and work on new things, and yet we're going to come back and it's going to be Dundee United will be absolutely fired up for this game. The same way Jim Good was always fired up to play against us. They will be fired up. We'll play Tav. They'll target Tav. Game, set, match. That's just what it's just what's going to happen. I can't see us doing anything different. I don't see wholesale changes in the team. Even if people are back fit, just come back from injury, ain't going to play them because the sports scientist says you can't play them. So I'm kind of with you, Ryan. I'm expecting the same old.
You tend to find that with football managers, don't you? They really do. Obviously, they have a system and a belief and a way of playing, but you always tend to find that sometimes managers can be so very stubborn that they don't want to almost admit that they're wrong in some respects. Now, I did feel that with Clement originally, which obviously can be a bit of a fault for a lot of managers, but obviously we've been seeing some tweaks in recent weeks. I'm just hoping that he has kind of been learning throughout and going, right, we need to be playing a better brand of attractive football because it is very slow, it's very stagnant. We have a double pivot, when you're at home against, teams that are 11th in the league, which isn't always necessary. Looking at things and looking at specific players, Ben, obviously Cantwell's name was mentioned earlier. Cantwell seems to have kind of been doing fairly okay down at Blackburn. Do you think that Clement maybe has a clash of personalities with some players? Like obviously him and Cantwell, there seemed to be a little bit of an issue. Was it due to the fact that maybe Cantwell just wasn't utilised properly at Rangers because he seemed to be here, there and everywhere and never really given a berth? Do you think Cantwell should have stayed and in a right position? Do you think that Clement has kind of looked, I need to word this better, but do you think that players like Cantwell would do better under a different manager? Because there are a few players in the team now that have got a lot of promise. You look at Diamande, come through the Right to Dream Academy, very highly rated, seems to be really stagnating this season. Do you think that the manager's not playing players in specific positions and it's hindering their development?
On Cantwell, I don't think Cantwell's positions and his playing ability is the reason he's not at a club. Something's went on kind of out with, because he bounced back for getting hooked after 30 minutes against Sparta Prague. So something's went on kind of towards the end of the season. And both of them have kind of hinted that, it's not my decision. Well, it wasn't my decision. So obviously something's went on. Diamande, again, I think... But then I don't know if Clement's midfield's any position in Clement's midfield suits him, to be honest. He's not a pivot, he's not a 10. I think he's in the middle. I think he's a kind of box to box 8. I think he would suit the Gerrard midfield better 100%. For me. Berami's the other one. He says he enjoys playing off the left and stuff, but I think if we can get Cortez back, he needs to be in a 10. Probably Hadji needs to play more the fact they brought in Kieran Dowell against Hearts and no Hadji blew my mind, just blows my mind. Because Kieran Dowell's not your player, he's not your signing. And I don't care how much he's earning. If he's not your player, you could easily just cast him aside and say, look, he's not for me. I'd have rather seen Lovelace or any youth player, Robbie Fraser, the lot over Kieran Dowell. I think if Clement spoke better and played younger players, or like I know Hadji gets sent off, so he probably would have played more if he didn't get a ban. But if he just made those simple decisions, I think he'd have a bit more sympathy for the fans, because he hasn't been dealt the best hand at the same time, but he's also doing himself absolutely no favours.
Yeah, do no favours whatsoever. I completely agree. Ryan, what do you think that, obviously we're not quite at the halfway stage of the season yet, but we are getting towards there. What does Clement have to do to win over the fans now? What are the kind of 3 key things that he needs to do?
Win big matches, first and foremost. I've kind of said that, boy, it's what's getting on my wick. I'm not winning big matches. Anytime we need a result, we don't get it. We're kind of talking about Europe and stuff like Europe's if we hit pressure's off in Europe. That's probably why we play better at Europe, because the pressure's off. The crowd's maybe a wee bit better for Europe as well, more backing. So he needs to beat Celtic. He needs to start being Celtic. He needs to start winning big away games in the league for me. So it's big games is first and foremost. Secondly, performances need to be better. We need to be beating teams 3-4-0 at Ibrox. The style of play, at least have a better style of play, more attractive football for the supporters. I think I've had a couple of results against Celtic, or we were with the more results like the Ross County. Do you know what I mean? I think they'd be a little bit less toxic for them. And for me, stop saying stupid things after press conferences. Stop coming out and saying fucking mental things. Just come out and say that was rubbish today. We're going to try better. We're working on this. Just stick with us. Don't come out and say that was a good performance and you get beaten, stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just Rangers will get ate alive by the media, and you get ate alive by supporters if you start saying silly things like that. It's just that's why I thought he was at the start working. I'm like, he's working his ticket. You know what I mean? He was some things he was coming out with. So for me, that's the 3 most important things. Alex Ray should be pulling on our side and say, stop saying stupid things like that. Just come out and say, listen, that wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? So big. We need to start winning big games. We need to start performing better. The possession of it, the way we play is just it's so one-dimensional. It's just we need better performances, bigger wins. Stop saying silly things.
Simple as that. No, I do agree. It's a good comment here from Paul. He was reckoning, beat them 3 more times, win the cup and play attacking football. That's all we got to do. And you know what? Yeah. Speaking of the cup, as easy as that, exactly. Yeah, easier said than done, isn't it? Speaking of the cup, Philippe Clement's had a pretty decent cup record in his history. Obviously, last season managed to win the League Cup for us for the first time in well over 12, 13 years. Managed to get to the Scottish Cup final, obviously, which we lost narrowly. Now we've got the League Cup final obviously coming up. It's obviously under a month away. It's actually more than just a couple of weeks away, really, isn't it? Now about 3 weeks away. Clement's got a decent cup record. He seems to do well in the cups. That seems to be something that has gone across the teams that he's been at. Steph, can he win the League Cup again and make that springboard to progress in the league?
Can he win?
Do you believe
Maybe
he can?
Not. Maybe not. Should he win? Yes. Like he has. There comes a point where you just have to. You have to. The capability is a big factor, but he has to win it. He just has to. There's no wiggle room on it. He has to. He can't, because just fine well what's going to happen. If they win it, they're going to win it comfortably because we'll fall apart, and then I'll just bring them on, and then after the new year, the fans will start voting with their feet, and then it's just a downward spiral. So he has to win it. Has to.
Has to win it. Ben, do you think he can win that game? Do you think he will?
I think looking at the Scottish Cup final, I know it's a different squad, and I don't think the squad's as good now, but he could, I don't think he will, though. And I think the Spurs game and the Cup final will be the 2 games that probably are the final straw. I think no matter how well you play against Celtic, if you don't win it, that'll be it for me.
Do you know
There's
what
too
it would?
much,
Yeah.
too much riding on it.
No, I totally agree. It's when it starts getting towards double figures where you haven't actually beaten your rivals. It's like going back to the kind of dreaded years between 2012 and 2017, really, isn't it? Now, looking at the games we have coming up, obviously we've got Dundee United at the weekend. So obviously Spurs coming up as well. It would be very us to beat Spurs and somehow, and then obviously get trounced in that League Cup final. What do you think, Ryan, would be a respectable finish now for the end of the season? Obviously, we're sitting third at the minute. We're 9 points behind second. What do you think, and as we're looking at the squad as a rebuild, because you know, being honest, it is a rebuild at the minute. Where do you think would be a respectable finish as a minimum for Philippe Clement this season?
I think we'll be lucky to finish second. I said that about a month ago and I get caned for saying it. Everybody's like Aberdeen will fall away and stuff like that. They don't look like falling away. We probably lost more points before them. Bare minimum, we need to finish second, I think, definitely. Don't care how good Aberdeen are playing or whatever. They will have a bad patch, so we need to claw it back. Some bare minimum second place. If it's crazy numbers between us and Celtic at top, I know you want to say bare minimum, but if Celtic win the league by a crazy amount of points, 15, 20 points and stuff, that's not on either. So, League Cup's massive. I don't think we'll win the League Cup. I really don't. I think our players will be terrified. I think they'll be absolutely terrified. Celtic players thrive under the pressure. We don't. We'll be cut up in the ball. But as Ben says, we handled the rain in the Scottish Cup final. It was a late goal. It killed us off. So I don't want to be too, but it's just right now. The Rangers just on there. Just give me no happiness whatsoever on it. Aye, so that's bare minimum second. But again, you're saying second. It's not as easy as saying that. If they're 20 points clear or whatever, it's not on.
Certainly isn't on. Certainly isn't on. Not for a team of Rangers size and stature. Now, I'm going to ask everyone for a report card grading. So we're going to go from A to F. Obviously, A being brilliant, F being terrible, and I'm going to go around everyone now. So I'm going to start with you, Ben. A report card for the first year of Philippe Clement, A to F. What are you going for?
I'd be teetering probably between a D and a C minus.
D and a C minus.
Because he did start well, did win us a cup, but as I said at the start, I think he probably had a decent 6 to 7 months, and the kind of 6 to 7 months that we're kind of in just now has been terrible. So I don't think an F's fair. Also due to the circumstances he's under, but it's not been great. So I'd probably go D, C minus kind of region.
D to C minus. Okay, so Ryan, where do you see the grading being at the minute? A being really good, obviously F being a fail. What do you reckon?
C. So I'm sitting on the fence with him just, and I'm still. I don't know. I still think it can do it, but just these one ball at a time, I think, mate. So I would say a C. I think the League Cup last season's. I think that's given some change in the bank. But it's a C at the moment, mate. By the end of December, could be an F.
Interesting. So it seems to be between C and D at the minute. So Steph, what do you reckon for Philippe Clement? What is your grading for him?
Yeah, I'd probably say a C as well, with a mark to improve. Yeah, it's not been the worst, it's not been the best, so I've got to sit somewhere in the middle. So I'd give him a C. Yeah.
A C. Okay, so it's between C and D at the minute. So we'll review that towards the end of the season. No, but yeah, no, it's been interesting to kind of get everyone's opinion, and of course everyone's opinion in the comments as well. There've been some fantastic comments coming in. It is a difficult one at this stage because I think, you know, looking at everybody's opinion, especially on the pod tonight, it's very hard to see light at the end of the tunnel. We're seeing some slight things. We've seen some slight improvements in that some players are now being dropped. We are starting to experiment a little bit more, which is something that's Eden doing. For me, frustratingly, the formation just doesn't seem to be changing, which you do need to have another plan. It's just something that needs to happen if you are going to do anything in the league. Not been the best start, but we know that there can be a run that we could potentially go on. But for me personally, at the minute, we just don't seem to be scoring enough goals. Now, January is just around the corner. We might be able to, allegedly money has been made available, whether that's just in loan fees or whether that's for buying players, but we do certainly need to bring at least a striker in the January window. But yeah, so it's at the minute, it's between a C and a D for Philippe Clement. He's not had the worst run, as the stats do say, but at the minute, it's a little bit of a downward trajectory. So hopefully that doesn't continue. Ben, Ryan and Steph, thank you ever so much for joining the Ibrox channel on the Rangers Journal tonight. And I just also like to thank Premier VPN, FastSafe and Private VPN. So thank you all, guys.
Cheers, Drips.
Thank you very
No
much.
Thanks, mate. Enjoyed it,
Good
guys.
to-
Thank you.
Good to
Thank
have you
you.
all on. And as Yaz once said, the only way is up. So keep with the Rangers Journal. Make sure you subscribe over on YouTube. There'll be more content coming later in the week. And of course, keep up to date on the Rangers Journal socials. And of course, the Ibrox channel, which is at the Ibrox channel on Twitter. And I'm on all the other platforms as well. So enjoy your night, guys. And we'll see you all soon. Cheery bye.